Hey everybody, welcome to day 4 of the Love Replications week. I will talk to you about getting your replication report ready for submission. This is obviously a replication research talk. So there will be something about the journal, but also some information that is generally applicable to wherever you decide to submit your article. So were several talks about how to do reproductions or replications, where to publish them. So the question is, what state are you usually at when you ask yourself the question, how to write the report? And I'd say most likely you would be in a stage where you have conducted the study, carried it out, or are approaching the end of the study, and then you are considering writing it up and aiming for a publication. And generally, lots of things about a repetition, meaning replication or reproduction, they're very similar to traditional reports. So you have introduction, methods, results, discussion, limitations. But one special thing is that there's always a predecessor study, always a target or an original study for your repetition. And it's like if you compare a model with a reality, there is an area where there's an overlap, where the repetition and the original are the same. And then there are two areas where the original possesses some characteristics that the repetition does not possess, and vice versa. And the general advice is to be mindful of the overlap and the non-overlapping areas. So you can map these features that I will discuss now onto the introduction methods, results, discussion sections. So in the introduction, you need to justify why did you do what you did. In the method section, there's a comparison. What did you do different? How did you deviate? In the results section, you are asking yourself, what is the consistency between the outcomes of the original and repetition? And then in the discussion, you need to appreciate the original study and carefully discuss what the implications of consistent or inconsistent results should be. So my colleague Lukas Röseler talked about justification yesterday already, though this was from a researcher point of view, from when you are considering what to replicate. Now you already did do the study, and then this is more about the context of justification, justifying in your report why this is a study that others should be interested about, and interested where others should be interested in the results. And this can be a theoretical relevance, for example, a study that corroborated a theory that is now relevant for lots of other research. It can be the number of citations that we heard about yesterday. It can be something that's relevant for practice, policy, society in general. Then we have cases where after a couple of decades of research, researchers are asking this thing that we are investigating, is it actually real? So there was this very interesting article from Friese and colleagues with the title, Is Ego Depletion Real? So there was high uncertainty and they couldn't come to a conclusion if it was real or not, although there were multiple decades of research, and that is a very good reason to conduct a replication. And then it can also be something odd. So this reference from Heather's, it's forensic meta science. So it's about methods on how to look at published research or data or results to find out if something doesn't add up. And that can be a reason as well. So some anomaly, some inconsistency that you want to understand. And also, like we heard yesterday, you can also say that something was worth publishing, so it's also worth repeating. Next is the comparison. Here's an example from Petrov and colleagues. And I will give you a couple of these examples because I think they are very insightful. So list all the differences between the original and the repetition study and discuss them. There are two different views from which you can approach this. There's the phenomenon focused view, saying any difference can be where the original findings limit of generalizability lays. So you filmed the participants so that it's better documented what actually happened, but then participants may have felt being filmed and that may have introduced something new. So that's why the phenomenon that you are studying may not be generalizable. The other view is a theory-focused view. It's not as careful, and you need a good theory because this is discussing if, according to the theory that you have, is the difference relevant or not. And maybe the theory, according to the theory, putting a camera in front of participants should not matter. And then you have a good reason to introduce the camera, documentation. And there are now downsides because the theory doesn't mind there being a camera. Of course, this always depends on the theory. So depending on the context, like the facial feedback replication, putting a camera in front of participants may actually make the phenomenon disappear. Then, once you have the results, you will be interested in checking for the consistency, so juxtaposing original and replication results. And then your task is to systematically compare them and compare everything that the original authors reported, ideally, if it makes sense at least, and put your results next to it, and then you can discuss if there's a meaningful difference and what the implications of that would be. And then in the discussion, and I think that is probably the most difficult part, you have to be mindful about how you discuss the replication results. Here's a comment from StatCheck, and it's very dry. It just says we ran an algorithm on this article, and we recomputed the p-values, and here you can see the lower p-value 2.8%. There was a recalculated p-value which was different, which was not significant. So it looks as though the recalculated p-value did not respect that it was maybe a one-tailed test. I don't know. And just this algorithmic check being posted on Papier, a public website, led to quite a discussion among researchers. And some also condemned that because it's unsolicited advice, it's criticism, and the original authors did not have the opportunity to comment on this before it was published. And this is just a comparison. If you publish a preprint of a replication, then it's much stronger than just conducting an algorithmic check of two reported p-values. So unfortunately, being replicated can feel weird, it can feel personal, it should feel flattering, because somebody thought your work was so important that they went to great lengths to repeat it. And it can also affect careers. So that's why you should be mindful. Always put yourself in the shoes of somebody who would be replicated. Think about how you would feel and how you would like to be approached about replication. And consider suggesting the original authors as reviewers if you publish it. If you submit the preprint or your article to a journal. Some journals usually invite authors of the original study as reviewers. In some, they are invited to write a comment. JCRE, for example, they request you to reach out to the authors if your results are inconsistent. So you can have an adversarial collaboration with the original authors, but there are also good reasons not to involve the original authors. You could say, that's research. It's not about something subjective that only one expert can arrive at. It's a conclusion that other experts should also be able to arrive at without the help of the original authors. So just be mindful that we have a culture, a specific culture of criticism that can make things a bit complicated. So, and finally, just be constructive. Just because you succeeded in replicating a study, it doesn't mean that everything was great. And just because your replication failed, it doesn't mean that the original study is bad. Now, once you've written up your report, there are a couple of journals. We had the replication journal showcase yesterday, where you learned about some of them. As for research, where I'm the editor-in-chief, we think that we are one of the most rigorous journals out there. So we have lots of checks that we are conducting. We have an open peer review. We have a reproducibility check. We have social responsibility evaluation that can be triggered. And with this emphasis on robustness and rigor, also come lots of requirements for authors. And this can be a bit overwhelming. So we don't think you submit your replication to R2 because it's easy or it's fast or there's just no way to publish it elsewhere. But we think you come to R2 with a replication or reproduction article because you care about replications, you care about rigor and diligence, and that's what we are supporting researchers to do. So we have requirements for transparency statements, disclosure of AI use, we require authorship contributions, and so on. You can always send us an email, and we also have a couple of materials that help you get your manuscript to a point where we can send it out to review right away. And if something's missing, you will just get it back, and we will provide you with a list saying, please add this statement and add that statement, and here's an example of what that could look like. So we have a cover letter template where there's already a list of what you should think about. And we have journal article templates. You don't need to put your manuscript in our format. That's what we will do after the acceptance, provided the article gets accepted, of course. But in these templates, there are already the headers. So we have these two files, Word document or Open document, and they include the headers, and then you can just copy them and put your funding statement and your ethics statement below them. And there are a couple of other resources with which we try to help you getting your manuscript into shape. So very generally, we have a handbook. It's work in progress. It will be extended sometime this year with a couple of other chapters and a few revisions. There you can read about state-of-the-art methods for replications and reproductions, from choosing the study, choosing the repetition type, to publishing it, essentially. We have manuscript templates for reproductions and replications that guide you through everything. They are similar to the JOPD, Journal of Open Psychology data templates, which we're also citing in them. And we also have a database of replications and soon also reproductions. And there you can browse studies just to see what do other replications look like. How do they discuss the theory, for example? How do they juxtapose original and replication methods? So I hope that this gives you a good idea of what's special about a repetition manuscript. And I'm happy to discuss any questions with you.